Their eye offset. If you notice in tandem, they're off the tackles. It goes to Johnson, and he's finding daylight as he tiptoes through beautifully. Look at the blockers in front of him all the way down.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video, and welcome to the Gridiron. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone out there who's been checking out my videos. Thank you. If you can give this video maybe a thumbs up or possibly leave a comment below or maybe share this video, it would just mean the world to me. But just, anyway, just thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. Thank you. So, if after the season is over, if he even makes it that long, and they give the old heave-ho to Dave Gettleman, all right, now, who might they pick? Who might be the leading candidates to replace him? Good question you ask. Now, the Giants have only had, including Dave Gettleman, technically by title, they've only had 4. But really, they've had 5 GMs throughout the history of the Giants. Okay, the Giants have been around since 1925. The first one is Andy Robustelli. Okay, he was named the director of operations. Okay, it was December of 1973. So it was just after the 1973 debacle season when they were 2-11-1. So Andy Robustelli was the director of operations. He was there from 1974, and he lasted to the end of the 1978 season. Okay, so he was there for 5 seasons. So he was pretty much in charge of most football operations, okay, once he was appointed director of operations, all right? So, not by title, but technically he was like their first GM, okay? He was there from 1974 to 1978. I'm not going to go into long histories over these guys because we'll be here for a long time, right? But then we had George Young. George Young was there from 1979 to 1997. I'm sorry, my dog here just wants to keep getting petted. So I do apologize. George Young was almost kind of appointed to the Giants because it was so bad for the Giants that Wellington Mara, they had 2 owners, okay? Wellington Mara, all right, and his nephew Tim were feuds since like the 60s over football operations, okay? If one wanted to do this, the other one didn't want it. If this one wanted to do something, recommended something, the other one, you know, all they did was bicker and argue all the time over pretty much everything. It was so bad. How bad was it? It was so bad that during home football games, they had to put up like a partition between the 2 of them because they would just fight and argue and everything. So it was really, really bad. So they needed somebody to step in there. And the NFL, per se, didn't like say, you have to take this guy. The NFL stepped in and they said, we highly recommend this guy, George Young, okay, to take over as your GM. And since neither one of the owners recommended, you know, the guy, you know, it came from the NFL, they're both like, oh, okay, that sounds good, you know, because whoever the other guy wanted to bring in, neither one was going to agree upon it. So since the NFL stepped in and recommended George Young, both Wellington and Tim, okay, said, okay, yeah, that's fine. So George Young was by title the first GM for the Giants ever. He was there from 1979 to 1997. After 97, Ernie Accorsi, okay, who made the big trade for Eli Manning, okay, stepped in. Ernie Accorsi was there from 1998 to 2007. Now, Ernie Accorsi worked underneath George Young, okay. And then when Ernie Accorsi was there, Jerry Reese worked under Ernie Accorsi. Okay, so Tim Mara has never really picked his own GM. Okay, so this is where, you know, it can get a little fuzzy because when they hired Dave Gettleman, Tim Mara, they asked Ernie Accorsi to come back and help find a GM for the Giants. And Ernie, of course, he recommended Dave Gettleman because Dave Gettleman had been with the Giants before. He also helped build the team that for the Carolina Panthers, who won 15-1 and went to the Super Bowl. All right, so he has some experience, certainly has some knowledge, and he certainly has some familiarity with the Giants because he'd been with the Giants before. So Tim Mara has never actually gone out himself per se and gotten how to find a GM. Okay, so he's not, super experienced in this area. So if they wind up getting rid of Dave Gettleman at the end of the season or before the end of the season, like they did with Jerry Reese in the 2017 season, he might have to ask, for some help once again because he's not the greatest of talent evaluators. Let's just put it that way. He's pretty much old school, and he needs to come more into the this century. All right, so he's hurting in that respect. So it's going to be very interesting if they let Dave Gettleman go. Okay, to see how they go around trying to come up with a new GM. All right, now there's some names I've seen out there which I just want to throw out there. There's others. I think I got like 12 guys on the list here. But, there's certainly other guys out there. But it'd be interesting to see if they do get rid of Dave Gettleman, who are they going to wind up bringing in, okay, to maybe help them find a new GM, okay? Now, the first one on the list is Kevin Abrams, okay? Now, he's been with the Giants. He's the Giants' assistant GM, okay? He's been the Giants' assistant GM, okay, for 20 years now. Okay, he's pretty much now, he handles the salary cap and the contracts. But he's been with the Giants now, he's been with the organization for 23 years. He's been the assistant GM for 20. Okay, so he's been around. He's been there with Ernie Accorsi, all right? He's been there with Jerry Reese, and he's been there with Dave Gettleman. So he's been around for a long time. Okay, actually, he almost started when he started just after George Young left, the first, per se, named title GM of the Giants. So he's been around for a while. All right, so he's had a lot of experience. So he's been with the Giants for better, and he's been with the Giants for worse. Okay, he's been in the good years when they won Super Bowls, and he's been in the bad years. Actually, one of his first years, we went to the Super Bowl when we got killed by the Ravens. Okay, but then he's been there with the Giants for 2 Super Bowls when they wound up winning after 2007 and 2011 season. He's also been there for the last 10 years or so when we've gone to one playoff. So he's been through the good and through the bad. Okay, so if you want to look in house, which a lot of times Tim Mara likes to do, okay, he likes loyalty, he likes to from within. Okay, Kevin Abrams might be the guy. We'll have to wait and see. All right. He got an interview in 2017 for the job, but they still wound up going with Dave Gettleman. It is what it is, guys. Now the second name on this list here, because I saw an article and they brought this name up, and it kind of almost like blew my mind. Then I'm starting to think, and it's like Bill Belichick is the coach of the New England Patriots. I'm like, Bill Belichick is also the GM of the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick's had some success. Not so much this year, not so much last year. Could be because a certain Tom Brady left the team. But anyway, so I saw this on the article and it was like, Joe Judge. I'm like, man, that kind of blew my mind. I'm thinking, I'm like, wow. It's kind of like, if you're all in on Joe Judge, right? Bill Parcells said when he was with the New England Patriots after he left the Giants, and he brought the Patriots to the Super Bowl back in the 90s when they lost to the Patriots. But one of his big complaints was, if you want him, he said something along the lines, if you want him to cook the meal, you might as well let him shop for the groceries, Meaning, like, if you want him to have a winning team on the field, you should let him, go out and, find the players to put on the team, to put on the field, right? And, a lot of times he had some problems trying to find the players that he wanted, okay? But, I mean, if you're all in on Joe Judge, all right, it's something to certainly think about. Now, I don't know if anybody's actually ever brought that up to him. he's got his hands full with the with just coaching. All right, now I don't know if he'd want to be coach and GM, but it's something to think about. Now, if and also too is like if you make Joe Judge the coach and the GM, okay, if things just start falling apart, all you got to do is get rid of one person and you get rid of the coach and the GM. Because a lot of people out there, it's so tough, because when things go bad, right, you got to bring in, a lot of people say you got to bring in coach and GM at the same time, guys that think alike and minds mesh and all that, and they got their one vision. A lot of times you got the coach and you bring in a GM. Well, the GM, how am I supposed to win? That's not my coach. Or if you got the GM there, if you got the coach there and you bring in a new GM, the coach is like, well, that's how am I supposed to win? That's not my GM. I don't like this guy. Or Or you bring guys in and how are we supposed to win with this quarterback? That's not our quarterback. Get rid of the quarterback. So it's very, very tricky to get rid of one and keep the other one. A lot of times they say marriages like that don't work real well. Something you want to just clear house. You get rid of the coach, get rid of GM, bring in totally fresh. And sometimes they want to get rid of the quarterback, get the wrong quarterback in there. But so this way, if Joe Judge starts stinking up the bed, you get rid of one guy, you get rid of both, and then you can bring in a coach and a GM at the same time. All right. Now you got to look at Joe Judge is not in charge of the offense. He's not in charge of the defense, right? In charge of the whole team, So there's a possibility he might get away with it. Now you also, if they're all in on Joe Judge, okay, you can argue yes, yeah, I could see that, and you can also say, dude, we suck this year, how can they be in all? Get rid of this guy too, you gotta look, injuries, okay, and he's not in charge of the offense. He's not in charge of he's not in charge of anything. He is, but he isn't. He's not, he's not the defensive coordinator. He's not the offensive coordinator. He's not in charge of special team. You got to give, the way he wants the team to respond to stupid penalties and all that, he's good with the media. Obviously, he doesn't have a good winning percentage or good winning record or anything like that. But there's a lot of things going for Joe Judge. Okay. Now, one thing obviously this year is, as I said, the injuries. All right, it's going to derail any team. No team is going to be able to, survive. I just saw it. Like Evan Ingram has a problem with his calf. Sterling Shepard tweaked up his hamstring again. So basically, I was looking like the Giants, you have to go down to find a healthy receiver on the Giants team. You got to go down to like their 8th player, which is Kyle Rudolph. No team in the NFL, okay, if you take out their top 7 receivers / tight ends, okay, as far as production, as far as yards and all that, take the top 7 out of every team, get rid of them, okay, and go from there. Get rid of their running back, get rid of their starting center, their left guard, and their left tackle. No team in the NFL is going to win a Super Bowl. Some teams might win more games or whatever. No team's winning a Super Bowl like that. Not happening. So, so if you're all in on Judge, might be something to think about. All right. Then there's David Ziegler, okay, the Patriots Director of Player Personnel. All right. Now, he's the number 2 man behind Belichick, okay? And he's overlapped with Judge, all right, for 7 years in New England, all right? Might be something to think about. Now, obviously one of the questions is, can the Giants pry him away? Be interesting to see. The next guy I got on the list is Mike Borgonzi. Okay, he's now, a lot of these teams, it's like what you're looking for, is how successful have the teams been. All right, now he's the Chiefs' assistant GM. Okay, now if one thing I read negatively about him would be, well, not negative, but if Eric Bieniemy gets a head coaching job, okay, he might want to take Mike Borgonzi with him. So, and I think it's just a matter of time before Eric Bieniemy gets a head coaching job with somebody. He's been on the top of the list for a couple of years now. I think it's just a matter of time before he winds up going. He might take Borgonzi with him, but it's hard to argue that the Chiefs have not been a successful team over the past few years. I mean, they've gone to the Super Bowls and all and everything. So that's somebody else to keep a name on. Then you got Ryan Poles. Okay, he's with the Chiefs, right? He's the Chiefs executive director of player personnel. Okay, and he worked under Scott Pioli, right, and John Dorsey. Those guys have been very successful. So so you're looking at like the tree, all right, like John Dorsey, who's worked underneath him, Scott Pioli, who's worked underneath him. Well, this would be Ryan Poles, all right. The Chiefs very successful. Might be somebody to look at. Then there's John Schoen. Okay, he's the Bills' assistant GM. All right, a lot of these guys are just the assistant GMs. They're just waiting for their chance. Okay, some of the guys, some of the assistant GMs are maybe waiting for the GM of the team to maybe retire or whatever, and then maybe they'll just move on. But possibly Joe Schoen, the Bills' assistant GM. Now, obviously, he ain't arguing the Bills are a very, very good team. But the past, so many years that the organization is starting to turn things around there, big time. I mean, you can argue that they're if they're not the best team in the AFC, I mean, they lost to the Titans the other night. I get that, but if they're not the best team, they're in the top two. As far as my money, I got maybe them and then the Ravens. I'm not sold on the Titans. Them and the Ravens. Okay. Now, Joe Schoen, he has a college scouting background, all right, and he's the number two guy behind the Bills GM, okay, Brandon Beane, all right. So, especially if you have some, it's because it's huge to have the scouting background, the college, so you know the talent, what you want to look for the talent to bring in talent, and that's something the Bills have. Bills have a lot of talent. And that is freaking huge. I mean, you have to build a team through the draft. All right? And that's what the Bills have been doing. All right, then you got Joe Hortz, okay? Or Hortiz, I believe his name is. He's the Ravens director of player personnel, okay? Now, he's been with the Ravens since 1998, almost since their inception, okay? He learned under Ozzie Newsome, who is a phenomenal GM. I mean, Ozzie Newsome is I'll tell you, he's I don't want to say second to none, but I'll tell you what, Ozzie Newsome is he's not there anymore. Ozzie Newsome is a phenomenal GM, okay? And since 2019, because I believe Ozzie Newsome left after 2018, so since 2019, Joe Hortiz, all right, he has learned under Eric DeCosta. All right, so I mean, you don't have to look far. I mean, the Ravens have all their injuries and they're still churning out wins. I mean, every year the Ravens doing phenomenal every year. They always put a good product on the field. All right, so he's somebody to certainly look at. I mean, you want to look at teams that are doing good, that do good like every year, and that would be the Ravens. Who's working there with the Ravens that knows how to build a team to do good every year? All right. Well, this would be one of them. This would be one of the guys. All right. Somebody to look at. All right. Then you got Adam Peters. All right. He's with the 49ers. He's the 49ers assistant GM. All right. He's been with the 49ers since 2017, and he's learned under John Lynch. Now, the 49ers are usually a very good team. The only thing that kind of derailed, obviously, they went to the Super Bowl. Right? Things that derail them would be injuries. I mean, other than that, I mean, they usually have a very good deal. They came in and smacked the Giants around last year, right? But I mean, usually the only thing that derails them would be injuries, right? So I mean, they're a very well-run organization. That the past few years they've been successful. All right, so that's somebody might be keeping an eye on it. Once again, he's another assistant GM just looking to make the move. Because John Lynch probably ain't going nowhere. John Lynch is young. John Lynch wants that job for a while. He'll be there for a long time, okay? And so this way, Adam Peters might be just stuck behind him forever unless somebody gives him an opportunity. Then you got Jeff Ireland, all right? He's the Saints assistant GM, okay? And he's in charge of college personnel, all right? The Saints, I'll tell you what, they've had some very, very good drafts, and he's only 51 years old. If you want to, I mean, the Saints every year. Very good team, very good team. I mean, Drew Brees isn't there anymore, But, I mean, their offensive line, Alvin Kamara, I mean, the receivers, their defense, they get some free agents, of course, absolutely. Every team does. But I'll tell you what, their drafts are very, very good. And that is huge. Wherever you're drafting, it doesn't matter if you're drafting, in the top 5, top 10, if you're drafting in the 20s, or wherever you're drafting, you know what I mean? You want to bring in good quality players that you can build a team around. And I'll tell you what, the Saints are absolutely fantastic at doing that. Then you got Omar Khan, okay? He's the Steelers VP of football business, okay? Now, he's been in the mix before, for other GMs, but he's never gotten one, okay? But, if you're looking at, a top flight organization, one that's every year is in the mix for winning the division, having a winning season, always just, their defense is always good, they've had their struggles with Big Ben, they're going to need a quarterback, obviously, but I mean, every year, churning out good teams, they get good players, so Omar Khan from the Steelers might be a name to keep an eye on. Okay, then you got Trent Kirchner. All right, he's the Seahawks VP of player personnel. All right, he's received plenty of GM interest in the past, but nobody's given him a chance. But the Seahawks, every year are a good quality team. Okay. So, that's somebody to keep an eye on. And finally, I got Will McClay. All right, and this one's going to hurt. It hurt me, too, to think about it. All right? He's the Cowboys VP of player personnel. All right. Yes, I said the Cowboys. Now, he's one of the key figures behind the Cowboys drafts. And, you don't want to, look at their offensive line. They drafted Dak Prescott in the 4th round, I believe it was. Hello. Look at the wide receivers they got. Look at the 2 good running backs they got behind Dak. The defense is a little a little bit of shambles, okay, but they're running away with the division, guys. And, they probably would have ran away with the division. Maybe, I can't say ran away. They probably would have won the division last year if Dak didn't get hurt. Okay. So, I'll tell you what, he's every year, when they draft, they usually draft good quality players. So the problem is that, Jerry would have to let him go. So I don't know if he would let him go to a rival, but Will McClay, it's certainly a name to keep an eye on. I say, because it's hard to, rule the fact that the Cowboys don't have a good lineup. They have a very good lineup. And I'll bet you the Giants, if we had some of those Cowboy players on our team, we wouldn't be 1-5. I can almost guarantee you that. So these are some of the names to keep an eye on. If Dave Gettleman, I'm sure he'll last the season. I don't, and it'll be going to be very, very interesting off season to see how things go because, you can say that the Giants are, very, very bad. It's going to be interesting. At the end of the season, when all the dust clears and the smoke clears and all that and everything, dust settles and smoke clears, what Tim Mara's going to do. These last 11 games of the season are going to be huge, determining the fate of like maybe Joe Judge or some of the coaches, and especially Dave Gettleman. Because if we don't at least look competitive, okay, Tim Mara can't stand that. And those empty seats we had at the game against the Rams, Tim Mara can't stand that. Absolutely can't stand that. So if things continue the way they are, certainly look for things to change. And at the top of the list of things to change would be getting rid of Dave Gettleman. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo!